Hello! Since it's been around Halloween time, my wife and I have been watching horror movies, and usually my wife doesn't like horror movies at all, but we try to do like a popular franchise marathon. And last year we did the Halloween series, and this year we're doing Friday the 13th series. And I don't think anyone will say like those are the scariest horror movies made, because technically they're not exactly horror, they're more slashers. Well, I take that back. The first Halloween is really good. I really like the first Halloween. I think that's a really sort of tense horror. I'm a big John Carpenter fan. However, you know, as they progress through I don't know how many Halloween movies, there's like 12 Friday the 13th movies if you include like Freddy vs. Jason in the remake, I think. Right, they just get increasingly formulaic and sort of go to this slasher camp. And I enjoy slasher movies. I'm not going to criticize slasher movies, but I think it's definitely a genre in and of itself. And one of the things I've noticed recently is that when I'm watching a slasher movie and versus a horror movie, in a slasher movie you kind of root for the villain, right? So in Friday the 13th, you kind of want to see everyone die, and certainly depending on the movies, you know, which movie it is, you know, sometimes the characters that are going to get killed aren't very nice or aren't very interesting or commit the sins of a horror movie like fornication or whatever. I forget what the rules were in Scream, but certainly I think, you know, Scream was very well done because it was almost a satire of horror slasher conventions. So, excuse me. So, obviously, you kind of want to, well, I don't know about obviously, but like personally, I like seeing a high body count in a slasher film, right? Like, it's very sort of lowest common denominator entertainment, bloods, boobs, you know, sex scenes, whatever. I mean, that's sort of the par for the course in the horror movies, and obviously the real sort of stars, or sorry, I said horror, I meant slasher. The real stars are the villains. You know, you want to see Freddy or Jason or Michael Myers, you know, kill a bunch of people. I think that's interesting and almost turning the genre of horror on its head. And I think it's something that would be difficult to pull off in interactive entertainment. And certainly, whether or not I think it's difficult, it seems like someone is trying. Until Dawn, I think it's called. It's a Sony thing. It used to be a Move title, but then they changed it to PS4, and now it, I think, uses less motion controls, but still some. I don't know exactly. But it's interesting because I think one person, I think, played it at PAX and talked to me about it, and they were saying, you know, that they were kind of like happy to see their characters get killed because they were kind of that annoying person in a slasher film where you're just like, okay, I can't wait till they kill that person. He's really getting on my nerves. So I think that'd be an interesting title, because yeah, I'm curious to see how it works out, and if, you know, people have emotional investment, if the protagonists are kind of annoying, or I mean, just because it's again trying to really go in that slasher camp. I was reading something how the villain is sort of like a mashup between, you know, Jason and, I don't know, some other ones. And so, if you're playing as the characters and they're not super likable and you don't necessarily want to see them survive, is there that underlying tension that makes a good horror film? I mean, certainly it could be a good slasher, but the problem is that if you're playing as a character that you're not rooting for, what's that going to be like? How enjoyable will that be? So it's a tough thing, because in a movie it can work because the action still follows the characters, but you're rooting for, the villain, and the villain comes out and surprises you and whatnot. But if you're playing as the people that you don't care about, then you'd almost want to play as the character you're rooting for. You'd want to play as the villain. But then if you play as the villain, it's no longer, has any sort of thrills, right? Because you're way more powerful than the enemies, or your enemies. I don't know why these horror characters are always killing people, but, they're... I guess your as the sort of antagonist are more powerful than the protagonist, and they rarely surprise the villain. So, I mean, it wouldn't be a very interesting game. So, I don't know. I don't really organize game jams or participate in game jams because, again, I think I recorded a developer diary about that, but I have trouble getting things done fast because, I care about details and code reusability and all that stuff. So, I don't think I would be good in a game jam, but I think it'd be interesting to do a game jam on the slasher genre and how that could be pulled off. And certainly, I don't know, maybe Until Dawn does a really great job, but I think it's a difficult genre to adapt to games, and certainly I think it might be a fun genre to adapt to games. Certainly, like I said, I enjoy slasher movies. I think a lot of people enjoy slasher movies. There was something where they adjusted it for inflation. I think it was on Wikipedia or something, and the Friday the 13th series was the most successful, highest-grossing franchise. Horror franchise. And again, if you look at most successful horror franchises, I think the other ones were like Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street, which again are all in this very slasher camp. So I think, the slasher is a legitimate and popular genre, and so I think it'd be interesting to see it adapted into games. Whether it could be or not, certainly I can't say. It seems hard, and it doesn't seem like there's a really clear path to how to capture that, because you want some sort of tension, but then you sort of want the villain to win. With having picking a character or characters as the player, I think it would be difficult. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you do like an Evolve. Maybe that would be the most interesting way. Is like Evolve, 4v1. You just take the game of Evolve and make the human people weaker and the alien monster thing, player controlled. So then you get the experience every once in a while of playing the villain and rooting for him, but then also you get the people playing as the sort of hopefully a tense avoidance of the enemy, and on the whole that you'll get to experience both sides. I don't know, maybe that'd be interesting. Certainly I haven't played Evolve, but, I almost feel like I want to play as the monster all the time, and I don't know how they balance that. Obviously it's tough, making the rest of the game as fun, but almost the games would be in two different genres at that point, right? When you're playing as the villain, then you're playing more something action, kill the enemies, whereas it should be more of a proper horror game when you're playing as the protagonist, the people that the villain is killing. But I don't know, it sounds like a really cool game idea to me. I don't think I'll be making it, so I guess you can have that one. I'm just kidding. But anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble.